Columbo Season 4, Episode 30, Playback. This is a slightly bold and speculative interpretation from Japan. First, I should say up front, I do not know whether this interpretation is actually correct. However, as I looked into it, I found certain points that made me think, perhaps this might be the case. I would appreciate it if you could stay with me for a while. This episode originally aired on March 2nd, 1975. The director, Bernard Kowalski, was of Polish descent. At the time, it is said that many immigrants from Eastern Europe were active in the American entertainment industry. The production team of Columbo may not have been an exception, and when we think of Eastern Europe, we find many remarkable figures. Nikola Tesla, Steve Wozniak, and Catalin Carrico, among others. It is a region rich not only in knowledge, but also in the kind of intelligence that is especially valuable in the age of AI. Truly, a treasure house of talent. Re-examining Columbo from this perspective, perhaps this background helps explain why the series often feels so profound. On the surface, it is entertainment, but when read more deeply, it becomes remarkably substantial. Some episodes contain a kind of structural double meaning, not expressed through dialogue, but embedded within the narrative itself. There, one can sense extraordinary talent. From his point of view, Playback may contain not only the surface of a detective story, but also the director's thoughts and concerns about Poland in 1975. So where does this appear? In 1975, Poland was still before the era of Lech Walesa. The country had introduced technology in exchange for loans from Western nations. However, it was unable to utilize that technology effectively. As a result, national strength stagnated, debt accumulated, and leadership became unstable. If we map this on a playback, we see the character Harold, played by Oscar Werner. He develops products using advanced technology, yet they fail to generate sales. At the end of the fiscal period, his mother-in-law decides to remove him. This structure closely resembles the situation in Poland at the time. Of course, this may simply be a coincidence. However, there's an intriguing detail. After deciding Harold's dismissal, his mother-in-law remains alone in her room, drinking brandy, while listening to Ballade No. 1 by Frederic Chopin. Although Chopin himself never confirmed it, this piece has often been associated with the 1830 Warsaw Uprising. Poland rose against Russian rule, temporarily pushing back the Russian forces, only to be eventually suppressed and brought back under control. And immediately after this scene, the mother-in-law is eliminated by Harold, and the incident unfolds. Her actions seem to begin like an uprising, only to be suppressed in the end. In 1830 as well, Poland suffered defeat amid confusion within its leadership. Here again, we see a parallel with Harold and his mother-in-law. The children are not suited for management. The son does not understand the family business and cannot even choose photos for a brochure. The daughter retreats to her room whenever discussions become complicated. As a result, Harold is the only possible successor. Yet even he is unable to run the company successfully. The financial results make that clear. In summary, the confusion of leadership is common to both 1830 and 1975. In the case of 1975, this is compounded by the inadequate application of technology. These elements appear to be recreated within this episode, with the setting transformed. At the end, the daughter is in tears, and Columbo lowers his head. But the story does not truly end there. During the end credits, Ballade number 1 plays once again, this time in a deeply sorrowful passage. The uprising has been suppressed. Harold leaves with the police. What remains is a son unable to decide, and a daughter who runs from problems. Harold did one thing right. He made it clear that Arthur could not run the company, and that the daughter could not either. At least that much can be said with certainty. The music director of this episode was a professional pianist, known for performing Chopin. It is hard to imagine that he was unaware of the background of this piece, just as Chopin never confirmed. The connection between Ballade number 1 and the Uprising, perhaps the director, too, never spoke about the true theme of this work. That 1975 Poland is, in fact, a playback of 1830 Poland.